Yeah, so I established a community, Women in Bitcoin, Israel. The group has 1,000 women. Everyone is only Israeli. And the reason why I started this group was because there is a very big group of Israeli Bitcoin, it's called. And it has like now about 30,000 people in it. And people ask questions, but the conversations there are not the way I want it to be, you know? Like people ask questions and it's very aggressive and they laugh at you and they taunt you and then you say, can't you just answer the question? And then they say, can't you just take sarcasm or can't you just be cynical? And for me, it was not like a good place to get information about blockchain and about Bitcoin. So I opened this group and I think the women there really enjoyed the conversations we have there and they ask questions. And I opened my blog. It's just really recent, like in the past few days. And it just like talks about the fundamentals of Bitcoin and blockchain for beginners. It just explains everything in 8 chapters. And so yeah, maybe if it succeeded, I'll translate it to English or I don't know, maybe even German one day. So I'm going to talk today about blockchain, about what is blockchain, okay, and how does it work. And I'm going to use the example of game theory and introduce blockchain as a game. Now, Adi talked about it a little bit, how there is a competition, but I'm going to explain a little bit more. Now, blockchain is a bit technical, so I don't know the level of all the people in this room. And some people may know more things, some may know less. So it's going to be very basic, keeping it basic and trying to get everyone to understand what is blockchain and how does it work. Okay, now people really love the word blockchain, right? That now everybody's like talking about it, they insert it into every new project, and they love to say things like, it's the new technology, right? Or it's a breakthrough, or it's the future. And it's really get everyone excited, and I feel like a lot of people are getting excited, but they don't really know what blockchain is, and they might mistake it for a futuristic technology that was invented and never existed before. So I don't feel this way, okay? Blockchain actually is a combination of a few things that have already existed before and people have already discovered and thought of it a long time before the blockchain was invented, okay? But the real breakthrough of blockchain, don't get me wrong, I really think it's a breakthrough. It's combining all these aspects into one, into creating the blockchain. And when the basic thing about blockchain, and that is what makes it so successful, is that it's based on human behavior, okay? And that is what we are. Now, when I talk about human behavior, I talk about, well, greed, okay? Now, I did talk about it a little bit, how people want to, you know, get the maximum reward. So, in game theory, we have players, and each player wants to get the maximum reward of the game. Now, in Game of Thrones, the maximum reward would be to sit on the throne, right, to be the king or queen. And in blockchain, we have different rewards. And also the players, they look at what the other players are doing, and they think about their moves according to that. So, also in Game of Thrones, everybody's doing what they're doing, and also they look at the other players. Yeah, but let's go back to the beginning, okay? So, Satoshi Nakamoto, have you heard that name? Who heard that name? Yeah, okay. Nobody knows who he or she is. It's an anonymous person or a group. And in 31st of October 2008, he published something called a white paper, and a Bitcoin white paper. And in this paper, it's actually a really simple article, about 9 pages. He explained what is Bitcoin. Yeah, and as I said, it's called the Bitcoin white paper, and you can look it up. It's very easy. It's on this internet address. But why do we need Bitcoin? I mean, okay, he got this thing out and explained what it is, but why do we even need it? So that's what he's doing in this article. He explains about a problem that's called double spending, and he says the blockchain solved this problem. Okay, now this is a bit technical. Okay, I won't get into it really, but basically it means that one person can spend the same coin twice when we're dealing with a distributed network. Okay, now if you don't know what is distribution or distributed network, I'm going to talk about it a little bit, okay, in a while. So the thing about networks is time. Okay, now when we have a central authority, it calls the time. It says this is the first time this happened and this is the second time this happened. But when we have a decentralized network and everybody's dealing with different times and we're sending something out to the network, we don't know when it's going to be received. Okay, so we don't know when really it got received first or who got it first. So I'm going to talk about an example that a little bit emphasizes this idea. Meet Phoebe, okay? Now Phoebe is getting married, but actually she's not getting married today, she just got proposed, okay? Somebody proposed to Phoebe, she's really excited, and she wants to tell it to one of her friends, Monica and Rachel. But she has to choose who she tells first, right? The girl she tells first would be obviously her best friend. So she thinks about it a little bit, who's her best friend, and she decides Rachel is her best friend. But since Phoebe lives in a hippie community, they don't have phones and they don't have Wi-Fi, so she can only send a letter. So she sends a regular letter to Rachel. She writes her, "You can't believe it, I was proposed today." And in order to prove that this was the day that she was proposed, she also adds a copy of a newspaper with the date of the day she got proposed, which is today, March 9th. Okay, so Phoebe's very happy, but then she goes to sleep, she wakes up the next day and she says, "I think I made a horrible mistake. I think actually Monica is my best friend." So what she does is she's writing another letter, which is the same letter exactly, but now she sends it with special delivery that reaches Monica first. Okay, but since it's the next day, the date on the newspaper is different. It's already March 10th. However, Monica receives the letter first, right, before Rachel. And what Phoebe doesn't know is that Rachel and Monica are neighbors, and they live close to each other, and they know everything about each other. So Monica says to Rachel, "I got this letter from Phoebe, she's getting married. Did you know about it?" And Rachel says, "No." So Monica says, "Well, I guess I'm Phoebe's best friend." And Rachel is disappointed, but after a few days, the original letter to Rachel gets to Rachel. She gets the letter and she says, "Oh, Monica, you know what? Phoebe sent the letter first to me. Here's the proof." And then Monica is really disappointed, and basically now none of them are friends. Okay? Now what this has to do with Bitcoin and decentralized network and NFT. Okay, now think that instead of friends, we're talking about sellers and buyers. Monica and Rachel are selling a product. Let's say they sell couches. And Phoebe is a buyer, but she's a cheater. Okay, and she wants to double spend the same coin. And instead of letters, she sends coins through the network. Okay, it can be any network, but let's say it's the Bitcoin network. So the coin, like we said, gets to Monica first, but because Monica is a seller and she believes she got the coin, she gives Phoebe a couch. So Phoebe got the couch, but then the same coin is getting to Rachel. And then we know that Rachel was the first one to get the coin, so actually she's the last one to have it, okay, because she's the original owner of the coin. And so she gives Phoebe a couch too. So what Phoebe did, she got two couches, but she paid for only one, and Monica got cheated. Okay, she didn't left with her coin. So this is a very basic problem of double spending. Now, what is blockchain? Okay, blockchain is the solution to this problem. As I said, we have a problem with what is the truth. Okay, when we're dealing about times, who has the truth? Okay, if we have central authority, we all look at that authority, and that is the time. But if everybody's computers is connecting to the network, which one is correct? So basically, let's talk about what blockchain is, okay? I like to call it a decentralized bank. Now, there's two words in here, and I'm going to talk about bank, okay? What is a bank? What's the basic part of a bank? Can anyone tell me? Why do we need banks?
Bookkeeping.
Trust.
Borrow money.
Like the basic, why was bank invented in the first place? Why can't we just hold our money?
Keep it safe.
Keep it safe, okay? We're keeping money in a safe place. So, yes, okay. Well, let's say the basic part of the bank is keeping your money, but we don't have actual money in the banks, right? We don't have bags of coins and gold, okay? What we have is records, okay? We have records on a computer today, okay? In the old times, we did have it physically, but now we advanced to digital records. And these records say who has how much money, and it's named a ledger, which is a word I don't really like. You know, I like the word notebook, so I'm going to use it a lot in this presentation. The problem is that we have other banks in faraway lands, okay? And the other banks have also their own notebook, but the notebooks don't really talk to each other easily. So when we're sending money to another bank, it can take a while. Has anybody ever tried to send a transfer of money from his bank to overseas, to a bank in another country? How long did it take? 3 days. That's a long time in a digital age where everything is instant, okay? So this is really complicated, all this bank system. And what we need is one ledger that everybody looks, one notebook, where everybody can see the truth and everybody agrees that this is the truth. These are the true records and everybody can see it. So this is what a blockchain is. It's a notebook. It's very basic. It keeps records of what? Of who sent Bitcoin to who. For instance, it says Chandler sent 1 Bitcoin to Phoebe. Okay? It's very easy. But instead of people, when we have banks, we have bank accounts belonging to people, we don't have people in the blockchain. What we have is a Bitcoin address, okay, if we're dealing with Bitcoin. And it's just a lot of numbers and letters together, and we don't know who person has it. Actually, one person can have many Bitcoin addresses. It can also look like this, which is a more friendly way to scan it and to show it. But how do we know, again, we have this notebook, how do we know which one holds the correct copy of it, okay? So this is what the Bitcoin network looks like. Okay, we have a lot of computers connected to each other, and they're all holding this notebook. The same notebook, the same copy of the notebook. And this is the truth that everybody agrees on, because everybody sees the same. Okay, and whenever somebody is adding something to this notebook, it is added to all the computers in all the network. Now, it can be in different times, right? One computer can receive new transactions sooner, and the other one will get it later. But they will all get the same information. And this is a decentralized network. Okay, why? Because I don't have one server, one central authority that everybody connects to and get information from. Everybody is connected to each other. And actually, it's a key factor in security. Because if we have one server or a few servers, it's easy to take them down or to hack them or to attack them. But if we have many computers around the world, we don't know what they are, we don't know who they are, we don't know where they are. Okay, it's impossible to take them all down. It's simply impossible. The only way to do this is to take all the internet in the world at the same time. Now, if that happens, we have bigger problems than the blockchain, right? So this is actually the safest way for storing information, for saving information. This is what the Bitcoin network uses. Okay, but there's a few questions that arise. We have this notebook. We can download it to our computer and participate in the network. But why would I want to do that? What does it give me? And also, who adds the new transactions to the blockchain? Who is responsible for doing that? And another question that a lot of people ask, where do all the bitcoins come from? And that is a very important question. So actually there are two words that answer all of these three questions, and that is Bitcoin mining, okay? That is the game, okay, we're talking about. We have blockchain, and mining it is the game. So before I'm going to talk about what is a miner, we need to talk about the type of users we have in the Bitcoin network. So we have nodes, which is every participant in the network. Instead of calling the computer as just a different word that, you know, programmers like to use, node, okay? And a node can be either a passive user, which is probably most of you, and he either sends or receives bitcoins and that's it. Or he can be a miner. Okay, now, what is a miner? A miner confirms that transactions are valid. Okay, we need someone to do that. Before we getting the new transactions to the blockchain, to our notebook, we need to make sure they are correct. That if somebody is spending bitcoins, they have those bitcoins to spend. If I'm sending 2 bitcoins, somebody needs to see that I received 2 bitcoins in the past. Okay, this is how they do it. And the miner adds the new transactions to the notebook after he validates them. And he does this, the adding part, by solving a function called hash function. I'm going to talk just a little bit about it, okay? And in order to solve this function, he has to put in work. He has to put in effort, and that effort is computing power, okay? A miner eventually is not a person, it's a machine. It's a computer or a mining machine that solves this function, and it uses electricity and resources in order to solve the function. Okay, as a reward for all the efforts that are done in order to solve this function, he receives a prize. Now he is a person, okay? Not the computer receives the prize, but a Bitcoin address receives the prize, and that's 12.5 Bitcoins. And I'm going to explain about this number in a while. Okay, so this is the game, right? And this is the answer to all the 3 questions that I've asked before. Who adds the new transactions? A miner does. Okay, why would he do that? He's getting a reward for that. And why would anyone want to participate in the network? Because, and where do all the bitcoins come from? That's it. The 12.5 bitcoins are the new bitcoins that are created. Every time a miner solves this function, the bitcoins that are sent to this miner as a reward are new bitcoins in the Bitcoin circulation. Okay? So this happens every often, and I'm going to explain about it in a while. Okay, what is a hash function? Now, I'm not going to talk about hash functions because it has to do with computer science and math and a lot of complicated things. But it has a very important attribute, okay? It's not double-sided equally, okay? This is a simple function, yeah? We do some sort of thing about x, the input, and we get a result, the y. So given the input, it's easy to calculate the output. Now this is true to a lot of functions, right? For example, a function that is multiplied 2. If the function is multiplied 2 and the input is 4, then the result would be? 7. 8, okay? And if you're giving me 8, and I know that the function is multiplied 2, I can go backwards and I can find the x, right? The input. But in a hash function, it's impossible to do this backwards, okay? Given y, it's impossible to calculate the input, and the emphasis here is on the word calculate. We can find x, we can find the input, but not by calculations, not by really math-solving geniuses, okay? But only guessing. This is how we solve the hash function. We just guess it. We throw random numbers. It's actually a lot like lottery, okay? And you know how in lottery, you have these groups of people that they buy 1,000 lottery tickets together, and then they share the reward if they win. because it increases their chances to win. So lottery is random, but if you guess more guesses per second or per time per lottery, then you have a bigger chance of winning. So mining is a race, right? Like Adi said, it's a competition, a race between miners. And they're all racing each other, and they're trying to solve the function at the same time, okay? And only one will get to solve it. He will be the first one, and only one will win. And only the winner will get this prize. All the rest will go home empty-handed, okay? Now, what is a block? It's very simple. A blockchain is our notebook where we write the transactions. So a block is a page in the notebook, okay? It's a page containing a lot of transactions in one page. Now, the miner chooses which valid transactions to add to the blockchain, and then he creates a new block, a new page, and then he adds the entire page to the notebook, okay? So the miners don't add transaction, and then transaction to have a long notebook. Instead, they do it by pages, okay? So this is what I said, basically. And there is another term we need to know, which is proof of work. Now, we said a miner has to solve the hash function, which is hard to do. He has to guess the numbers, and it can take a long time and resources. And after he does it, he spreads the solution to the other nodes, right, to the other computers connected to the network. And the other nodes can validate his solution, but that is easy to validate his solution because of the hash function attributes, right? We said it doesn't go both ways the same way, so to solve it is hard, but once we have a solution, to see it's the correct solution, it's very easy. So the other nodes can see that the miner actually put in the effort, actually worked hard to solve the function, and they validate that. So that's a proof that the miner invested the work in the block, in the page. Now, how often does that happen? How often does a miner competing is succeeding solving the block? Oh, every 10 minutes. Now, 10 is a completely arbitrary number, okay? That was selected for the Bitcoin network. It can be other numbers like Litecoin, it's 2.5 minutes, and in Ethereum, I think it's every few seconds, and in Bitcoin, it's every 10 minutes. So every 10 minutes, there will be a winning miner. That is how the system works. And transactions made in all those past 10 minutes since the last block will be added to the new page, to the new block. And the entire block will be added to the blockchain. So basically, a miner creates a page, and then somebody creates another page, and another page, and another page, until we have blocks, blockchain, okay? So blockchain is just a chain of blocks. And why is it a chain? Because they're connected to each other now. That's important to understand. Okay, each block is connected to the previous one. It means that in order to solve one block, you have to know what's the solution of the last block. So basically, the race ends when a new page is added. And then the race starts all over again with a new page. Okay? So everybody forget about what they did, and they start solving the new block, but they have to know the number for this thing. So each page, each block is new competition. So how does it work? Let's look at an example. Okay, I talked too much. Phoebe wants to send 1 Bitcoin to Rachel. Okay? We know that Phoebe has 1 Bitcoin, and we know that Rachel has half a Bitcoin. That's right now. And they're connected to the Bitcoin network using their Bitcoin wallets, right, in their apps, in their phones. And Phoebe goes into her Bitcoin wallet, and she sends 1 Bitcoin to Rachel. Whoop. Okay, so actually, it happens instantaneously. Remember how we talked about banks? 3 days, it takes a long time. In Bitcoin, it happens instantaneously. Everybody in the network can see that Phoebe sent to Rachel 1 Bitcoin. But it's not validated yet, okay? Somebody has to go through the notebook and see that Phoebe actually has 1 Bitcoin. She actually received it in the past. So this is a miner, and what it does, it keeps listening for a transaction, okay? It keeps looking for new transactions. So he heard that Phoebe sent 1 Bitcoin to Rachel, and he prepares a new block, a new page to the notebook. So he inserts that transaction to the page, but there are also many other transactions in this page, right? It's not just the Phoebe one. It's a lot of transactions. And then he tries to solve the function by guessing random numbers. So he's guessing, and then he reaches a number that is the solution. Let's just say, for example, this number is 125. It has no meaning, okay, but that is the solution to the function. And then he said to all the other nodes in the system, to all the other computers, hey, I saw the function. This is the new block that you need to add to your copy of the blockchain. This is the new page you need to add to the copy of your notebook. And all the nodes receive that message, and they say, okay, so Phoebe's transaction is actually valid. I see that now because we have a proof of work of that miner. And the miner receives 12.5 Bitcoins plus, can you see what it says here? He receives a miner fee. Okay? Now, I'm not going to talk about what is a miner fee because that's a whole other game. But really shortly, any user that sends Bitcoin can choose to add a fee for the miner in order for him, an incentive for him to get his transaction into the block. Okay? As I said, once we send it, it's instantaneously, but it's still not validated. So we need a validation to be final. So I can say to the miner, hey, I wanted 5 now, so here's half a Bitcoin. That's a lot of money. Nobody sends that as a miner fee, but let's just say, here's half a Bitcoin, and I need to validate it on the next block, on the next page. Okay, now this is a competition not between miners, but between the users. Okay, why? Because we only have 1 page at a time, and that is limited. Okay, let's say a page can only contain 10 transactions, and 100 people are trying to send Bitcoins in these 10 minutes. So there is a competition between them who will get to the next block, who will be authorized first. So if there is this kind of overload, then the ones who are really, they're trying to buy a product and the seller is right there and they say, I want it finalized now, so they can send a higher miner fee. Now if I'm just sending Bitcoin to myself and it's not important that it will be fast, I can do a really low miner fee. And it also works the other way. If we said the page contains 10 transactions, but there are only 5, then there is room for all of them in the page. And you don't even have to have a minor fee because it doesn't matter for him anyway. He wants to maximize his reward, right? So he will choose the maximum minor fee, but if there is no competition of the users, then he will receive no minor fee at all. Okay, so in the end, this is the blockchain. We have blocks connected to each other. Now, let's just say, for example, this is the first block ever created on the Bitcoin blockchain. Satoshi, right, he was the first original miner. He received a reward of 50 Bitcoins. This is the first block. No one else had Bitcoins when the first block was created, okay? So all the block is consisted of is a miner reward of 50. Now, why is it 50? I said I'm going to talk about the 12.5. So basically, the reward goes and it shrinks during time, okay, by half. So after 4 years, we have 50 Bitcoins for the first 4 years. Then the next 4 years, it's 25. And now we are 9 years in the Bitcoin network, so it's 12.5. And in 2021, it will be half then 12.5, okay? So this is the last block we have. Phoebe sent 1 Bitcoin to Rachel, but somewhere in the history of the blockchain, we have to have the proof that Phoebe actually got this Bitcoin. Okay, so we need to get all these blocks, and we need to get the proof of work, the solution of the block for every block. Now, why is this so important? Because there is work done in order to get these blocks in the blockchain. Now, if I want to change the information on the blockchain, I can try to do that. So I'm saying this didn't happen. I'm erasing this transaction. But then this block is no longer valid because Phoebe didn't receive the Bitcoin. So then if I change 1 block, I have to change all the blocks after it, right? Because I said each block is dependent on the previous block. So somebody who tried to cheat the network, he has to redo all the work that all the other miners are doing. And while he's doing that, at the same time, new blocks are added to the blockchain. So he's trying to compete and racing all the other miners already adding new blocks. So basically it's impossible for him to catch up when he's racing through all the other computing power of the network. So this is why the blockchain is so powerful, okay? The information in it can't be changed. And in order for us to be sure that we got final confirmation, it's useful to wait like 6 blocks, okay, for final confirmation, because there have been miners in the past that were able to change the 6 blocks one after the other. They were able not to change, but to solve one block after the other, and that means they also have the power to change them. So nobody tried to cheat the system this way, but we see that maybe they can do it. So it's preferably to wait 6 blocks for final confirmation. Just need to drink a little bit. But you know what? I'll keep you in a suspense. Let's say you want to participate in the game and get a Bitcoin prize too. Well, tough luck, you can't, okay? Well, you can, but not on your computer. Well, you can, but the chances will be 0.000000000, and somewhere in that will be a 1, okay? This is what a mining farm or a mining pool looks like. It's when a lot of people, or one person that has a lot of money, you know, they combine a lot of computing power together in order to make the efforts to solve the function bigger. You know, we talked about solving the function is like lottery, and when you buy 1,000 lottery tickets, you increase your chances to solve the lottery, to win the lottery. It's the same thing, okay? When you are trying to guess more numbers to solve the hash function, and you add a lot of computers together, it increases the number of guesses, and it makes your chances of going to a solution is bigger, okay? Now, there are places that have advantages, like places that are colder, because you need to cool all of these computers, or places where it's cheap to put all this, you know, you need a big space for that. Or, you know, just places where the electricity is cheap or free, and China cannot answer all these things. So China has kind of an advantage, but now it's actually a lot of countries, a lot of other places are also going into these kind of things, like Russia, and I don't know, I think Canada is trying to get into that as well. What? Iceland, yeah. Yeah, so you can, what you can do is you can add yourself to a mining pool and be participate in the pool, and then you share the rewards, right, if you win. So a lot of people say that Bitcoin is digital gold, and the reason for it is it's important to know that the mining difficulty adjusts itself to the miner's quantity, okay? Now, it's not that it's always harder and harder with time to solve the hash functions, to solve the block. It's not true. When there are a lot of miners trying to solve it, it goes more difficult. But when there are few miners, when miners are exiting the mining of the Bitcoin, it turns to be easier. Okay? So it adapts itself to the amount of computing power we have in the network. So if all the miners decide today they don't want to mine Bitcoin anymore, and I'm the only one left in the world, so it will be very easy for me to solve it. Why? 10 minutes, remember? Somebody will solve it every 10 minutes. That's the law. So if I'm the only one, I will solve it in 10 minutes, and using only my computer, like Satoshi did in the beginning. Okay? Now, the reason that it's so hard today is because we have a lot of computing power, but it changes and it varies all the time. Okay? But it's always profitable to mine Bitcoin because it changes itself, the difficulty. And like I said, every 4 years, the price for Bitcoin mining decreases by half. 50, then 25, then 12 and a half. And as we said, this price is what makes new Bitcoins come into the circulation, come into the world. So new Bitcoins are becoming more and more rare with time. And with time, with time there will be about 21 million Bitcoins only. And now there are a bit more than 16 million. So we already got the most of them, and we don't have much to discover. And around 2140, the year, there will be no more new Bitcoins, because they will all be mined. Okay, it's a simple math formula, you can try it yourself. Multiply 50 by 10 minutes, by an hour, by a day, by 4 years, and so on, and you reach this math formula that in the end will end at 21 million. Okay, so I didn't get a lot of time, okay? So to talk about blockchain can take hours and days, okay? And let alone to talk about blockchain and game theory. But what we know after this lecture is, we know what the game is, okay? We know the rules. We know who the players is. Well, this is just one type of player, by the way. We said we also have the user. So the mining is just one sort of game we have in blockchain. We have the incentives, what the miners are getting, if they are succeeding in solving the function. And we have punishment. We haven't really talked about punishment, but really it's the investment the miners are doing while they're doing the mining. Okay, so we have the electricity, but also they invest money even before they're doing the mining, which is to buying all these products, okay, to buying all these mining machines. So if Bitcoin, for example, will lose its value, they will lose all of the investment they already did. But we haven't talked about how do you cheat. So I'm not going to talk about, there are ways to cheat the game. And these are just a few names of cheating, like a race attack, a Finney attack, and majority attack. Nobody really actually tried and succeeded in doing these attacks, let alone in the past years. But you can read all about it, and I recommend my best friend, Google. You can, it's amazing. Okay, the blockchain in Bitcoin, everything is open source, everything is out there. You can look at the blocks of the blockchains, right, because it's transparent, everybody looks at the same copy, so you can look at it too. You can just search up a random Bitcoin address, see how many Bitcoins there are in that address, when the Bitcoins were sent, when the Bitcoins were received. You can get all the information you want. You can look at the code of the Bitcoin. And also I recommend Andreas Antonopoulos, which is a great speaker about Bitcoin and blockchain. He has really inspirational talks, but also technical talks, and he's one of the best speakers about Bitcoin and blockchain. This is his Twitter, and he also has a YouTube account, and I really recommend, if you want to get more into blockchain and Bitcoin, you can look him up. And to sum it all up, blockchain is based more than anything else, more than math and more than code, it's based on people. Okay, it's based on the people who started it, maybe from ideology, and it's based on the people who joined this network and are continuing to join because it's so well established, it's so well thought of, when the main thing about it is human attributes. Now, we talked about one human attribute, which is greed, but there is another very important attribute we need to talk about, which is trust. Now, Adi talked about it a lot, the trust. For example, when we have a dollar bill, a euro bill, it's the same thing, okay? The only thing in it is trust. It's not backed by gold, we don't get anything if we hold this note. It's just that we trust the governments who issue it. And also, we have trust in Bitcoin. The value of Bitcoin is what it is today. What it is today? Anybody knows? Checked? 8,000 something? Okay, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of dollar bills. So the reason it is, this number is because people trust it. Okay, so what's so amazing is we have managed to create value without kingdoms, without governments, okay? Without anybody official manufacturing it, only by a simple math, known and simple math formula is what says how many Bitcoins are today, tomorrow, and in 100 years. And that is very simple to know. And all these attributes put together is, in my opinion, what makes blockchain and Bitcoin truly a breakthrough. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. It was amazing. Any questions from the audience?
Thank you for a great talk. I have a question. So what will happen to the mining industry after all the Bitcoins are mined? I think good the miners have enough incentive to mine when they only have the transaction fees.
So that's a great question. So they have the miner fee. That will be their incentives. And because of Bitcoin, we don't know what will happen in 100 years. But we suspect, the people who designed the system suspected that Bitcoin will only decrease in value because it's getting more and more rare. So the miner fee will also be worth a lot. Also, I forgot to mention about miner fee. This feature is what makes it harder to cheat the system. For example, you can send just 1 million of little transactions to yourself, right? And if it's free, then you can just overload the system and create a very high miner fee because you create a lot of competition between the users. But that costs a lot of money because of the miner fee. So miner fee is really important, actually, to maintain the system and for not cheating in that way. Yeah.
Thank you for the talk. I have two questions. The first one will be who's paying the miners? And if I, as a user, have to pay the miner 12.5 Bitcoin for transferring 1 Bitcoin, I wouldn't do that. And then, second question, if blockchain is a decentralized database, isn't then miner fee making miners the new intermediaries?
Yeah, two great questions. I'm going to start with the second one. A lot of people say that, okay, we try to get away from centralization, but then we have the miner, which is again centralization. Now, don't forget the miners, our incentives is to play fair. What they're doing is just playing along with the system, and they're getting their fee for that, and that is what makes them also validate the transaction. We have to have someone to do that, okay? So this is the way to do that. What's the first question was? What was this? About the miner. 12.5. Right. So this comes from God. I don't know, but it just comes. It just every time it's part of the code of the Bitcoin. Okay. Every time a new block is created, new Bitcoins are created out of thin air, kind of like money. Okay, are created out of thin air, and the miner can choose to which address he will send. So you're not paying for that. Okay, it's the system itself that is creating new Bitcoins, and this is the pay for the miner, and what you can add is the miner fee. And you can decide if to add it. For example, right now the transactions are really low. It's really fast to transact Bitcoins, and the miner fee can be really like 1 Satoshi per byte to 3 Satoshi per byte. That's like less than a cent. That's really, really low. So there are times when there's a big overload and you can send $10 per transaction. So people say that Bitcoin is better for transacting bigger fees. Like you actually spend the same miner fee if you send $10 or if you spend $10 million. Okay, so it's very good for a transaction for a lot of money.
And what does that do to democracy if you're like paying more and you get?
Right. So if we look about banks, we don't control banks, right? They're issuing the money and they have all the authority. Now, mining, you can participate in it, okay? If you want, you can collect all the women in the world, okay? Create a women mining firm, and there's a lot of women in the world, and you will be number first miner, okay? There is nothing that prevents you from getting in the game yourself, okay? You just need money, but if you're a lot of people, then everybody gives $1, then you have a lot of money and you can compete. So this is what makes the system a democracy, because everybody can participate, unlike banks or governments. More questions?
Yeah, two questions on, you just spoke about Bitcoin now. There are more than 1,000 different coins at the moment. ICO industry is going crazy at the moment. There are so many coins coming out on a daily basis.
Don't trust them.
I know. In my point of view, there are at the moment way better concepts and ideas than blockchain in terms of scalability, transaction cost, speed, and so on. We have Ripple, we have Ethereum, IOTA, and so on, countless things. What I would like to know is your opinion, your view on the whole industry, how it's developing and what direction it's all moving in the next years. And linked to that question, where do you see Bitcoin in 5-10 years? Is it even existing, and what is the price?
No, first, okay, thank you for your question. I have a secret for you. I don't know any better than you guys, okay? Like 2 years ago, I didn't know anything about this. I just read a lot. And you can do that also. And my perspective about the future means nothing, okay? Because anything can happen. And because it depends on all the people in the system, actually it depends on a lot of more people that don't know about these things than people that do know about these things. So maybe you should ask the people that don't know how these things work, what are they planning to do, and that will be a better way to see what will happen in the future. So I don't know the future of Bitcoin. I think it will be good. That's my assumption, because we can see with time people are less trusting centralized things like governments. They're actually afraid of it, okay? So we think we are stalked, we are listened to, Facebook and everything, and our governments are listening to our phones. So this is like a sort of a solution, sort of an escape. I think with time people will get more to that direction. Now about all the other coins, at the beginning I thought, oh, everybody's just a scammer, and only Bitcoin is the truth because the inventor was anonymous and we don't know who it is. But now I think it's a good thing, because competition is a good thing. It's a good thing for us, okay? The more things that we can choose from, it's better for us. And it's better for us also to be competitors. And like I said, everything is based on humans, human attributes in humans, and humans make the decisions. So some people like better technology, some people like better what kind of uses, like I like music, so I want a coin that is only to buy songs from my favorite artists. So I will support this coin the most. And everybody likes something else. Like not everyone likes the newest technology, okay? So and the most powerful thing behind a coin is the people that support it. The team, but more importantly, the people who want to use it and actually support it. If a coin is incredible, it has all these things, but nobody uses it, yeah, it has no meaning. So it's the people behind it, that's a good thing. So I think if you'll invent something really good and get a lot of people behind it, it can be maybe the new Bitcoin, I don't know, maybe.
I think that's it, because we have less than an hour left for lunch and maybe we're hungry.
You can approach me for questions like here, if you want.
Thank you very much for talking once more.